So with the melting man, this guy was several hundred pounds and died and was left there for 10 days. A lot of the fluids just seeped all the way down the house, underneath the house. It was just a tremendous amount of bodily fluids. And you got flies and maggots that, feast on that and spread it to other parts of the house. Like you could smell it as soon as you turned down the road that the house was on. The officers that knocked down the door were vomiting. The smell is just so pungent and metallic and it just sticks on you. It's just something you never forget.
How excited I am to do this interview. Jacob is a 7-year crime scene cleaner with experience in cleaning murder scenes, traumatic cleaning, as well as just kind of overly dirty homes, right?
Yeah.
So Jacob, man, like I was telling you before, I binge watch your YouTube content, your IG content. I really am thrilled to have you on, brother.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. And I love that you're doing the show. I think it's super important for people.
Starting off, what does a crime scene cleaner actually do, and what originally made you want to become a crime scene cleaner?
Yeah. So crime scene cleaner, that's just kind of like the tagline, I typically throw out there that gets the most views. But crime scenes can literally include just any type of biohazardous situation. So oftentimes that does involve when people die, especially if they die traumatically from a suicide or a homicide. Typically, there's a decent amount of blood and bodily fluids and biohazards that leak out from the body when they're deceased. And
Right.
so, our job as crime scene cleaners is to go and take care of the biological mess that is left behind so that the family doesn't have to deal with it.
What drew you into that career field, man? I imagine that was a talk between your family and you, man, just saying, hey, I'm getting into crime scene cleaning.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, I started off in Oregon and my uncle actually is the one who started out as a franchisee of a larger corporation that does this professionally. And so he got the Oregon territory in Portland. And I was 17 years old when he started it. And I was like, all right, cool. And at first it was just the hoarders, the home transformations that we were doing. He just needed extra hands to throw out garbage. And so that's what I was there for. And once I turned 18, they were like, hey, let's get you on one of these death scenes, and help clean up some biohazards. And I was pretty nervous about that at first. I was like, oh man, this dude is dead, and the family's there and the kids are there and they're traumatized. And anyway, it was pretty nerve wracking. But yeah, that was my first time doing an actual death scene when I was 18 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. The mentality that it takes to say, all right, hey, I'm a cleaning hoarded housing to freaking now you're just showing up to a scene is just crazy to me, man.
Yeah, no, it was quite the trip.
What is there any training required typically for, crime scene cleaning, or is it just typically like you get in the game by who you know, kind of like the family ordeal that you kind of leveraged, or how does that typically go?
Yeah, I would say typically it's on-the-job training, right? So you get in with a company that does this, and they bring you on, and then they just bring you to a job site, and they teach you how to do it right then and there. Obviously, it does help if you've had prior experience, doing similar type of work in biological cleanup or construction, restoration type of work. Those are all very co-aligned skills that go with it. There are trainings you can do. They're mostly geared towards business owners. Most crime scene cleaners are business owners, and so there is some training you can do for that as well. The IICRC has a crime and trauma scene cleaning certification you can take. Some organizations and some people look to that as a standard, but there's several other options out there as well for crime and trauma scene cleanup on how to do it on a technical level.
Okay.
If you want to do it in your own home state, you basically just got to look up the Department of Health and see what their standards are for transporting medical waste. And then you just got to adhere to that.
Interesting. So just there isn't a certification that is required to be able to conduct the crime scene cleaning at all, or is it like you mentioned? Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean, obviously licensed, bonded, and insured
Okay.
is people are going to expect that. But that's just insurance, and trust that you are actually a real person that knows what they're doing. But it's still the Wild West out there when it comes to crime scene cleanup. It's not like a regulated industry per se. It's getting more and more, there are some things coming out to really have more of a gold standard. And there's online communities that try to uplift the standards of the crime and trauma scene cleaning community. But it's not like other industries.
So take me back, to your first crime scene cleanup, just the transition from now you're going from a hoarder, primarily hoarding, to you're 18 and you're called out to that first death scene, right? What was running through your mind at the time? What were the emotions like? You said you were nervous, man. How was that?
Yeah, no, it was pretty trippy. It was a suicide. It was this father of three young girls, all under the age of 10. And so that's what I kind of, yeah, it was tough. I was like, that was the information I had going into it. I was like, whoa, this is going to be like a very cold scene. So the medical examiners, they took the body away. And I think it was the day after, the morning of, is when we were going there. So it's like, oh man, this is fresh. You know what I mean? Um, and so, yeah, he did it in a garage, right? And there's like this little room inside the garage with like a single light bulb up top, um, and a couch. So
Oh
that was
man.
trippy. It was like this whole concrete room, like the concrete floor, and then just these plain white walls with a single light bulb and a couch. Like there was nothing to do there except what he did. And so he shot himself in the head and just bled out on the couch. And I don't know who discovered him. Might have been the wife. I hope it wasn't the kids. I actually don't know.
Oh
Um,
man.
but someone discovered him. They took the body away, and then they called us up to go clean up the remains left behind, which just looked a whole lot like breaking down. Well, taking up the obvious bodily fluids on top of the couch, and then which is also trippy. Like when there's brain matter, like it's just that was the first time of me like interacting with like brain matter and like
Jeez.
congealed fluids. Um, it was really hard not to get in your head because you're like, oh my god, this was a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
That's
then you have to like kind of push that past that and just like not think about it too deeply.
yeah.
It's like really the only way you can do it. And then it just looked like breaking down the couch into bitty pieces that can fit in these biohazard bags, taking it out to the dump, and then just like really inspecting every inch of that room to make sure that there's no blood that's splattered, and no like bullet holes, with the bullets still in it. So
Dude, that's crazy. That's your first scene, right? Like, it's the
yeah,
stereotypical creepy one light bulb, like, that's
yeah.
flashing in the garage. How do you mentally prepare for that? I mean, it sounds like they give you enough information beforehand, like, you understand what happened on the scene. Am I correct in saying that for every, like, scene, like, they give you sufficient amount of information? But, I mean, how do you mentally prepare for that before going on site, especially, like, when you first started?
So yeah, so preparing for the scene is always pretty tough. Sometimes you get pretty limited information, and you don't really know what you're walking into until you're like literally there. Other times they give you, and plus it's when you get the phone call, right, of like, hey, this horrible thing happened, we're gonna need help. Um, you don't really want the client to like relive the trauma, but it is
Yeah.
helpful as a cleaner to be like, how much blood is there? How did it happen? Stuff, information like that helps us prepare for it, but you don't want to like burden them with like replaying that image in their head of what they saw,
So with
you
that
know.
being said, since you've been doing, what's the most surprising part of the job that you didn't expect, before going in?
Hmm. I didn't really expect. I think I was surprised just at like how many were happening where we were, from all age ranges too, from like 16-year-olds to like 80-year-olds. And what I didn't expect was the fact that the suicides focus on either when they're really young, so like more like high school, early 20s age, or when they're like 70 years or older. um
Wow.
that was an interesting thing I didn't expect to see.
That's like the demographic that you typically see, or
Yeah, as far as suicides are concerned, it's like younger kids and then older seniors.
oh man,
Yeah.
that's awful. Um,
Yeah, it sucks.
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, how do you deal with like the visuals then, like, not only just that, but just in general, like, how do you is this something that you overcome? Do you get used to it? Like, the smells, the visuals, everything that you're dealing with? I know you're in that hazmat suit, so, I mean, hopefully, you're not smelling too much of the scene, but,
Yeah.
do you feel like now you've overcome that, or are you still affected by it?
Um, you I don't know, good question. You learn to
Yeah.
compartmentalize it to some degree.
Right.
Um, after, the 20th suicide, it doesn't like hit as hard anymore because you've just learned to compartmentalize, I suppose. At first it was really hard because it's like, oh, you go to the scene, you're thinking about what happened, you're thinking about all the after effects of like, what's going to happen now, why he did it. There's pictures of them on the wall. There's a suicide lying right over there. You're pretty curious. You're naturally curious about all those details. But then at a certain point, you just learn to like completely block all that information off from like getting into your head because it prevents you from doing a quality job at the end of the day, and it prevents you from having the healthiest like mental health you can. Not that you completely ignore it or anything. Like obviously you're human and you want to feel those things and process those things in your own way. With either with family or with friends. I have a therapist that helps a lot. Just find the appropriate ways of like letting stuff out.
That, like, not trying to get too involved with the scene, it sounds like.
I'd say
Um,
so. Yeah. And you gotta like have mental reminders of like while you're doing it that it's like, oh, it's better that I'm doing this than the family. Like you're kind of taking on that trauma on behalf of the family. Cause imagine how much worse it would be if the family members had to go and clean up what you're seeing and they're like
yeah.
personally related to the guy. That's why you do what you do. And that's what you gotta remind yourself of.
So, walk me through, a typical day from getting the call to, preparing for it and then actual cleanup. What does that look like for you guys?
So yeah, so the day starts off. So again, these calls can kind of come in whenever they come in. So it could be the middle of the night, it could be in the middle of the day. So you just got to be prepared to go and walk into anything at any time. So let's say like a phone call comes in, at 2 in the morning. It's like this horrible death scene. They need it cleaned up. Typically, we'll ask like, "Hey, can this wait until the morning?" And sometimes we're like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. We'll see you at 8 a.m. or something." Other times we're like, "No, this needs to happen like right now." And then we get up and we go to the scene and do our thing. Um, but yeah, so we get the phone call. We try to ask some clarifying questions of like, when can we go in and look at it, and um, who's directly involved on the situation. Is it the landlord? Is it the family? Who owns the property at the end of the day? That's important information to know because it's covered under insurance if
Yeah.
they have homeowners insurance. So stuff like that, we got to like get an understanding on. And, we schedule the job. We tell the crew, like, hey, we're going to go do this. And we go drive over to the job site and we assess the scene. We come up with the plan. We tell the people involved what the plan is to remediate the situation. They sign off on it. And then we go in with, we suit up, we take our chemicals, we take our tools, and we get to work disinfecting, cleaning the scene, and then removing any material that is contaminated with blood.
You mentioned, like, some scenes require an immediate response. Like, what dictates that? Like, "Hey, this can wait till the morning," versus something that needs immediate attention.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe a factory, that's like, hey, we got to get operational by tomorrow. Maybe it
Uh,
happened at like a retail location. Like, hey, we cannot like let this get on the news. I mean,
yeah, right.
this is really not going to make our PR team happy. So yeah, stuff like that is like this is an emergency. With the police as well. So in San Diego, we got all the contracts with the police department, and so they expect a 1 hour response time from the moment they call us, 24/7.
Mm,
Because it's public property. We don't want cars driving through blood and lock down, Fifth Street for 20 hours. So,
yeah, yeah. That makes sense, yeah, just kind of dictating, hey, operations that need to take place the next day, that would make sense.
right. Yeah.
Um, we talked about kind of balancing that professionalism, with the empathy. Have you had a scene that you've responded to that personally stuck with you emotionally, and what do you do to handle that?
Yeah. Yeah. The first one that like really got me, I was like maybe I was 19. I think I was 19 at the time. But 16-year-old high school kid shot himself. And so I just personally related because he was like, oh, just a school district away from me. He's like
Mhm.
in my cohort, it kind of felt like. And so I get there, and the family's still there. Like they had nowhere else to go, I guess. So they were just still at the apartment at the scene of like where it happened, and it was just in the kids. It was in the kids' bedroom, right?
Jeez.
And so the parents were still there. They were wreck, Um, so that was really hard, just seeing these parents just mourn the loss of their child, because it just happened. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That was like a really raw moment to be in. And then just to be so close in age to the guy, just like really had me like thinking about the whole situation. Um, and I think the parents just, I don't know, saw the kid in me as well. They're like, oh, this like young guy, is here doing this. And so they like wanted to show videos of what their kid was like, um, at school. And he was like a funny kid, he had friends and told
Yeah.
jokes and whatnot. And So that just made it like, oh my god, this was a real person. This sucks. You know, um, it was hard to detach because you're literally right there in the midst of their trauma.
That's
So
heartbreaking, man. Yeah, I don't you know, I didn't even think of that aspect of it is like, hey, what if the family stays there while you or what if the family is there and you interact with them, right? Like,
yeah,
what is that like? And yeah, man, that's awful, especially if they're showing pictures and they see you in the child, essentially. That's awful, man. Is there a moment where the job just becomes routine or does that cross like any ethical boundaries for you whatsoever?
I mean, to a certain degree, it does. But every situation is pretty different and unique. So there's only so much routine you can have because
Right.
every year there's something that is like I never saw that before, didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
or there's just like a really unique, complex family dynamic to like kind of walk through. Um, the family dynamics can be pretty strange sometimes.
How so? What in what ways?
Um, well, everyone grieves differently,
Yeah.
and so sometimes we'll be on a scene and everyone's just like acting a little too normal. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess kinda like that. Have you ever had a scene where maybe you've responded to something where you guys are trying to figure it out yourselves? Like, "Hey, maybe this is mystery." We don't like, maybe a murder scene, right? A homicide scene.
Yeah.
Do you guys, like, maybe do you help, law enforcement maybe piece together puzzles at times or
Oh, that'd be cool. I wish, man.
Yeah. I would imagine, I mean, because you guys would see certain things that maybe help piece it together. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, so I did a podcast like this, but with a crime scene investigator. And so
uh,
we kind of got to go back and forth and stuff. But that's their job is to like look at the blood marks and the trails and try to piece together why and the who, what, when, where, why, type of thing.
right,
Um, but it's always fun to be on those scenes when they still got like the stickers, pointing to like the blood spots, and you see the blood trail going to the bathroom, but he actually died over here, and so you kind of
oh,
like play in your mind of like, oh, this kid, this 20 something year old, like, killed his grandpa or something. And then I think he killed himself. Um, but it was just like, oh, wow, this was like a battle, he like went over here and then he went over there. And I think
yeah.
he finished him off over here. So, yeah.
So I would imagine you guys come in after crime scene investigators, correct? Or
Yeah.
is it just kinda coincide with each other or
Yeah, medical examiners take the body. They'll do an investigation. CSI, if needed, will do their investigation. And then within like after they're done, they're like they'll either call us if it's public property, but if it's like private residence type of thing, they'll tell the family like, here's a couple of companies you could choose from to do the work for the
right.
cleanup.
Am interested in, the money that you can make out of the career. That's sometimes, a big question with the careers that we interview. What is the average pay, would you say? Do you guys first of all, do you guys get paid hourly? Is it, like, contract based? How does the pay work within your field?
Yeah, so if you have like a job and you work under a company doing this type of work, pay ranges a lot based off of the state. But entry level, you could expect like $20 an hour, um, and then as you kind of move up to be like a field manager sort of thing, you could probably come up closer to like $50 an hour. As a business owner, per project, you get paid, on the low end, maybe like $1,000 a job, up to like 50 grand a job.
Is there a way to market yourself, or is there a ladder that you can potentially like a promotion ladder that you can go to maybe so you're working with more trusted, three-letter organizations or like you're getting sort of the bigger contracts, or is it just kind of all happenstance and you're
Hmm.
getting contracts based on your location, things like that?
I think time, experience, trust, and your network all play a role in how that happens. If you're brand new to the scene and you want to go for this big government contract, they might there is going to be more competition, and they'll probably choose your competition with more history than you.
Ah,
If you've been in the game for 5 years plus, and you've proven yourself as competent, you have a higher chance. Website, internet stuff matters a lot. Your SEO. I focus more on like the network marketing and referral marketing. So that's where I found the most success is just building trust and relationships with police departments, medical examiners, body transporters. Yeah. So
yeah. What advice would you give someone that's looking to maybe start their own cleanup business? Is that difficult? Is there a lot of competition, or how would you go about potentially starting a business?
if you're looking to like start a business, there are training material. I help coach and consult, young entrepreneurs on getting started. So I got courses and training material on how to
Nice.
start the business, how to get trained to do the work, how to set up your website, how to launch your first marketing campaigns, stuff like that. So it's not the easiest thing in the world. You've got to be able to learn how to do a lot of different things, at least semi competently, or have the funding to outsource things you don't understand. But that's where I find the most joy in, is like I've learned a lot of different things over the past couple years since doing this. Um, and so I'm really excited to share how I've done those things,
Yeah,
to
man.
people that
Again, I
want to
keep
do it.
mentioning your videos. I felt like I learned a good piece of how to be a cleaner myself and just watching your videos alone. So I know that your coaching is probably incredible. I'm smiling while I ask this, man, because I'm excited just again listening to your stories and things like that. But what is the craziest or most memorable story, specific story that has stuck with you, would you say? Or maybe even just your wildest, most gruesome cleanup story that you have
Mm, the wildest one
that you can share.
that I can share now, right? There's been a lot of crazy ones, man. I've had a couple of jobs like this where they like hoarded out. Well, the house was hoarded out, so just like to the ceiling with their belongings. But something a lot of people don't recognize is that when it comes to like extreme hoarding, is the bathroom facilities stop working along other facilities, and so because of the shame and the embarrassment of how they got their home in that situation, calling a repairman to go and fix the plumbing just doesn't happen, and so they resort to like other solutions to dispose of their waste, which may involve diapers or just straight up buckets. Like they'll just go in
Oof.
buckets and just keep it in the house. It's crazy. Um, but
Wow.
there's been a lot of jobs where the bathtub was just filled with their diapers, like used diapers. Um, and then yeah, and then you just gotta go diaper by diaper and throw it away. It's
That's
like
crazy.
it's really it's pretty horrible actually. Um,
I have kids, man, like, even their diapers, I'm grossed out by sometimes. I couldn't
no
imagine
dog.
that.
Yeah, and like it is a mental health component to it as well. And I just remember this one job where this lady, similar situation, just like diapers all throughout the property. So many. And she was just barefoot all throughout her property,
Oh,
so, and there's like broken glass and there's just like diapers everywhere, and she just would step barefoot over everything. And I was like, that just really, I don't know, that just really shook me. It was almost like that was like borderline. I don't think I could do much more of this. It just really got overwhelming because sometimes you get like a whiff of it, and stuff because the mask wasn't sealed on properly, and it's just like
jeez.
it's
Oh
it's
my
pretty
goodness.
miserable work sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I know you mentioned on your story, with a lot or in your page, this amongst a lot of stories, but one story that stuck with me was the Melting Man story. Is that something that you'd be able to discuss or
Oh yeah. Yeah. So with the melting man, there's a sometimes there's a growing trend where people live alone and they start isolating themselves from society because of DoorDash and online community. You can just basically get all your needs met and never have to step outside. And after years of doing that and like other health complications, you may die in your home. Um, and you may not go discovered for several weeks at a time, which is really sad that no one like was able to check in on them. But with that said, so this guy, he was several hundred pounds and died and was left there for probably about 10 days or so. And over the course of those 10 days, the body goes through different stages of decomposition. Um, and so with that amount of fluids that were leaking out, it went through the floorboard, through the carpet, through the carpet pad, um, and then it goes through the carpet pad into the subfloor, and then it goes under the subfloor into like there's like a crawl space under most houses, and there's like insulation under in the crawl space, and so a lot of the fluids just seeped all the way down throughout the house, in
dude,
underneath the house. And so it was just a tremendous amount of bodily fluids, we had to go and take care of. And you got flies and maggots that, feast on that and spread it to other parts of the house as well. So it very quickly makes the whole house a very badly contaminated zone of like biohazards. So that one took a couple of days, took a lot of removal, a lot of really hard work. Um, yeah. And yeah, it did not smell. It was like one of those things where it's like you could smell it, as soon as you turned down the road that the house was on.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
Yeah, and like the officers that like knocked down the door were like vomiting, after doing it because they just saw like the horrendousness of it, and the smell is just so pungent and metallic, and it just sticks on you for the whole day. It's just something you never forget.
Dude, because he's literally melting. That's crazy. By the way, man, do you guys ever like get to a scene and just upcharge just based on like something like that? Like, hey, we didn't
Right.
expect this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we just kind of leave that stuff up with insurance. We charge appropriately when they're
Right.
when they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I would have, yeah, that would have definitely been a scene that I upcharged for.
oh yeah, for sure.
So what is the hardest part of your job, would you say, or the part that you, I guess, least like about your job versus the most rewarding and the part that you enjoy the most?
Mm. So I think my least favorite part, I'm an entrepreneur, and so I do run my own business, doing the cleanup work, but also big on the marketing side. You have to wear a lot of different hats when you run your own business, and that can get pretty exhausting pretty quickly. There's not a whole lot of clarity and direction sometimes when you're kind of running things by yourself. So I'd say that's my least favorite part is just not having, as big of a team to really kind of keep things tight. But my favorite part is kind of the same thing. You got to try a lot of different things and you got to learn a lot of things on a very broad level. And so I think that's what is really unique about doing something like this as an entrepreneur, but also in this industry is you learn to become competent in multiple different domains, and you get to cross-reference those domains to create a product and a service that truly meets the needs of people suffering.
Yeah, and that grows with experience too. If someone watching this wants to follow your path and wants to get into the cleaning world, what would be their first step, and then what piece of advice would you give them?
Hmm. First step. So I think so. Trauma scene cleanup is a very, very niche field. The chances of landing a job specifically in trauma cleanup is pretty low, as there is just not a significant amount of demand for it. And it's not that complicated to do. Like doing trauma scene cleanup is not rocket science. Pretty much anyone can learn it. So you're going to have a lot of competition if that is the one thing you're going after. So if I were to suggest anything to someone that uh, wants to build up their career and work in trauma response because that like matters to them, would be to get relevant skills and knowledge in other domains that provide value to small businesses that do under $1 million a year, and that's very specific.
Oh,
But and then the reason I say that is because there's busy seasons and there are slow seasons. So even if you do get a job as a trauma cleaner or just a general cleaner at any of these small companies, the company itself will go through seasons where there's just really nothing on the calendar. Um, and most companies will pay their employees based off of the jobs that they
right.
serve with the company. Um, and that can be really challenging for a lot of young people that want to get into a career that has a very consistent and reliable pay. That's probably one of the biggest challenges people have when they get into this career is the slow seasons. Um, so if you can learn to provide value to a small business that is not directly related to the cleanup work itself, such as marketing or anything else that small business owners have problems and don't have time to solve, you will have a lot more reliable pay and a lot higher chance of actually getting hired if you can prove competency in multiple domains, despite and not just the cleaning side.
Whether it be just to learn, get coaching, or just to just watch great videos, would you mind plugging in your handles, man? Your where they can find you on YouTube, social media, so on and so forth?
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's Biggie Clean on all channels. Biggie like the rapper, Biggie, and then Clean. And so that's where you'll be able to find me on pretty much all the major social media platforms.
Thanks for clocking in with us. Enjoy the content? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have a career in mind you would like us to spotlight, send us a message on Instagram. We're always listening. Until next time, it's time to clock out.